Right, everybody, I'm joined by Abigail Ireland, peak performance strategist, and someone I've only just met today. But what we thought today would be pretty cool to do is introduce her more from a position of exploring who she is, what you do, and why you do it.
So thank you. Good to meet you today.
Yeah, finally, yeah. Not just an ugly face on the internet saying, "No, you're right,
a
mate."
scary face. No
Judgment. Yeah.
No, I did still connect with you. So that's good. But so I focus on peak performance, and I focus on three pillars mainly. So psychology, physiology, productivity, and essentially it just covers performance and productivity. But I do it because I used to work in banking, and over the years I did lots of different things, and I realised that I wanted to know, how do I perform at a high level without burning out? How do I perform without burning out on a sustainable kind of basis? And what I do now does not feel like work for me, so it's like part of my life.
Awesome.
I don't feel like I'm going to retire from it, I hope. Yeah.
It's actually quite a cool point to go over, because again, in our industry we talk about work-life balance, but actually from what you found is actually the harmony and integration of your work and life, which means it's you have a bit more harmony in relation to when you work, you're still living, when you're living, you're still working. For people that you work with and people that have been, banking's a mad industry for taking charge of your whole life. I used to work in Singapore in the CBD, and all my customers were bankers. I've got a few still there. What's one of the biggest bottlenecks you'll find for people in that situation? Because it's all right for me and you who we live peak performance, and we want to help people and all this cool impact stuff and status and that kind of thing. But for people who are operating more in the corporate side of that, what do you see is the biggest bottleneck for them trying to integrate their personal performance with their professional performance?
A lot of people are actually really good at it. Sometimes I find the more high performing someone is at work, the more they're actually pretty good at focusing on the things that are going to help them to perform even better. But time is usually the one thing, lack of control over your schedule. I know when I was in banking, you would sometimes be working on deals and it would be late nights, weekends, unpredictable times, and it would be dictated by the client's agenda a lot of the time. So it's really hard to have a routine, have that consistency when you're in that kind of environment, unless you're really disciplined. And maybe when you get to a certain level, you can actually enforce that discipline. But it's quite hard to have that routine all the time. Yeah,
sure. I think we were saying before about rigid things break, especially in that environment when it's crisis, or especially in economics of the UK. We're not going to go deep into the politics of things, but when the madness is going on currently, I know banking is going a bit wild too. Let's maybe take a little step back a bit, because I'm curious more about you. What was the catalyst for you to leave? I mean, funny enough, I've actually got a particular person in mind who I've worked with who works in similar situations, desperate to coach, works in corporate, hasn't made the jump. And I think we see this a lot of the time, especially with people, not just people with leaders, but people who they've done a bit in their industry, but they recognise actually it's not very fulfilling. What's fulfilling is actually more, not just self-actualization of yourself, but helping others achieve X. What was the catalyst for you to shift from corporate to now coaching? And also, what's been the biggest lesson doing that?
Yeah, great questions. It's interesting because when I worked in banking, I always wanted to have my own business one day, but I didn't think I would be doing what I do today. And it was kind of like these small little steps just led me to this. So back in 2012, I was working in Sydney, and I got a phone call, and my brother, it was 2:00 in the afternoon, and my brother said basically, Dad's gone to hospital, and he was in the UK. And I thought, oh, my dad's fine, there's never anything wrong with him. And then half an hour later, my brother called again. He said, Dad's gone. And it was just like that, just, very sudden. It was an aneurysm. But it was one of those things which, at that moment, we were working on a big sale process and got that news. And it was just a point of realization of one day I'm going to have my own business. And when is that one day going to happen? And time is short. So one of the biggest things it taught me was time is precious, which is why I think probably I focus a lot on productivity now, not because of doing more and more, but because you want to be making the most or the richest use of your time. And at the time I was also training in personal training. I started studying nutrition and all sorts of other things that I found interesting myself. And then over the years, I decided to leave banking, start my own business, did something completely random first, very, very different to what I do now. It was language learning platform, so you could find a tutor, nothing to do with this. And it was my first kind of move into entrepreneurship. And then because I had all these other things that I was doing, I just decided I want to bring them all together. And so over time it evolved into peak performance, because it's not just about, you know, the technical skills. It's how do you manage your time? How do you manage your energy? You know all this stuff, right? So it's the fundamentals of how you can be at your best. So it kind of gradually happened. But I think there was always this realization of I want to do my own thing one day. Not because I really enjoyed banking, but I was also thinking you're not in control of your life and time. And also there's an impact. People get to you don't realise it, and then people get to a certain age and things stop working, or you can't power through as well as you'd want to. So I didn't want to get to that point and think I've sacrificed my health or anything else for the job, essentially.
Wow. First, thank you for sharing about your dad.
Yeah.
Again, that's a huge life moment that you said. That I think it's probably similarly. I lost my old man 3 years ago from lung cancer in 4 weeks, and the scariest thing was like you looking at it going, "Can you leave something on the table?"
Yeah,
and that's probably where we moved fully online 3.5 years ago. I moved from I was in Singapore. I used to play rugby in Manly in Sydney.
Oh, nice.
So I was there. I was actually going to try and there's a gym called 98 Gym. It's in Darlinghurst.
Oh, Darlinghurst. Yeah. I wasn't far from there.
If you ever get to go back there, those guys are savage, mental place, amazing. I'd go there now. I won't go. My wife won't let me move. But the realization, like you said, of making it count, I think is super poignant, especially when you meet other coaches of like-minded nature. There's so much carryover. We all speak the same language.
Yeah.
And the difference that I've always said that makes the difference is, one, it's the story. Two, it's the standard you hold yourself to. And three, it's actually your philosophies around performance itself. I'm curious, what's one thing that you've gone back on? How long have you operated it? From banking to now, how long have you been coaching?
I left banking 2015, so 10 years.
Wow.
10 years, yeah.
So over the last 10 years, what's one thing that you found that you've gone back on in your like high performance journey, not just from a delivery, but also from a personal standpoint?
When you say gone back on,
example, carbohydrates are bad for you.
As in something I said that I don't agree with now?
I used to be like, everybody used to come to me when I work in health and performance.
Yeah.
I used to be like, right, someone wants to lose weight, they have to drop carbohydrate.
Right.
Whereas actually now I'm way more versed in nutrition, I'm versed in physiology, and there's so much more strategy. Some people, that's very poignant because they can't absorb it very well. Some people are the exact opposite. They need it to improve whatever, thyroid and help testosterone, whatever. I changed my mind massively on horses for courses about finite information on that as a subject. Is there something that you found in your arena from a productivity standpoint, a physiological standpoint, or a mental performance standpoint that as you've started off preaching this and suddenly as you've got deeper into the game, you've gone, actually, do you know what? This is maybe not actually, it's very contextual. Is there something that you found?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And it's interesting because I think there are always things that we believe, and the more you learn, the more you realise you don't know anything.
It's like
because when I first qualified in different things, you're like, oh, I know everything, and you go out there, and then you realise as you get deeper that there's so much more to it. I think the biggest thing actually I found was, I remember talking to a friend once, and I was like, focus on peak performance. Everyone would want to be at their best every day.
Yeah.
And I learnt not everyone does want to be at that. That to me is the most interesting thing, because I've always wanted to, even at school and everything you do, I want to apply myself and see what I can do. And I did realise that sometimes people are just happy not being not everyone wants to be a top performer, peak performer. But
they want to cruise.
Yeah, and they're happy doing that, which is totally fine. And I think that was one of my biggest realisations when I was talking to one of my friends, and she'd had a couple of kids, and then she'd gone back to work and stuff. And I think I was saying, I was training this team, and some people were like not interested in wanting to
be better and do better,
just be best for themselves every day, just to give themselves 100%. And she's like, well, other people have other stuff going on, so they're not really, that's not their focus. And it was a big aha moment for me, because I thought everyone would want to be giving their best every day.
Yeah. What about you on a more personal coach level? What's one thing that you wish you knew earlier on in your career?
As a coach, I think in the beginning I thought, right, I need to be giving people ideas, telling them what they need to do, or suggesting things. And that did work, But I actually think the most powerful coaching is where you're not telling someone anything, right? So you're able to actually get them to think for themselves and to come up with things. And I still sometimes think that's quite hard. I think it's quite hard. And I'm still, even with coaching, initially I'd thought when I was on the other side, when I was in banking, someone would come in and be a coach and you think, oh, we're just having a chat. And then you realise how many
Depth
layers there
yeah,
are.
yeah.
In every question, every pause, everything, there is power in those conversations. So that to me has been, you know, and you're obviously, in terms of coaching, your questions are really good as well. Like the way you ask questions, the way you ask a question can impact
Everything.
the response that
Yeah,
someone gives you. So all of that has been really eye-opening over the years.
Mega. I've always wanted to feel significant as a coach. I've been in health and performance for 17 years. Done everything. I've worked with people in physio practice who've had a double knee replacement at 65, to professional fighters in the One Championship, to CEOs who are running global teams at Roche and Deutsche and all this other jazz. I think the biggest thing that I've learned personally is that, like, one, it's horses for courses, and like I said, there's a time and a place for optimal performance and peak performance. That was a big thing that I learned. And also that the drive to achieve is a superpower, but it's also a curse. I found that is it was wicked in this room because everyone's got different stories, and that's probably why I'm so fascinated by it, is because what does actually performance even mean anymore when you are wanting it? I want everything. I've just had a baby. My wife's had a baby. We've had a baby. It'd be weird if I'd had a baby, but trust me, after that, different ball game. Fair. Ladies' bodies are mental. 18 months, and he's wild. But I've always been. The centre of my performance has been me, a professional rugby player. My wife swam for Great Britain. She was an international athlete since she was 14. So we've always athlete based. She's the opposite to me. She's just mum. She doesn't care about that and stuff anymore.
Yeah.
Me, I've taken my physical performance and I've gone, right, vocational performance, I've got to send this into oblivion. And I've found the last 3 years has been the biggest lesson I'm learning at the moment is what does my heart want, what does my ego want?
Yes.
That for me has been not horrific in a bad way, but the amount it's absolutely slain me from the position of I've never had a little human being or something else that's not, I don't care, but I do care about myself, but more I'm willing to suffer. Yeah. Whereas a parent or when you haven't, when for somebody else, it's not that. I found within coaching that's been quite difficult to not only to find that, but as we said about balance and integration of performance. Yeah. That's why I resonate with that so much, was like you are your product is you. With relation to the Deepsky platform, and again, that's how we've connected, which is wicked, and I'm looking forward to working alongside you because you're going to blow my head off in the best possible way.
I think I'm going to learn a lot.
Nah, you're wicked. With so many stories. What's the one thing that you want to bring to the platform and to the leadership performance space? Because I think that's the ambition, is to provide an incubator of actionable information with some wicked people. What's the thing that you want to bring to the table?
I think making it real. I think, there's a lot of leadership training and performance conversations, and it has to be real for each person in the room, that they actually feel like they can go out afterwards and do something with it. Yeah. And I think that's the thing about performance. I find my philosophy or my mindset towards it is everyone has their own version of peak performance or high performance. Yeah. I think the thing is, and I know, I'd love to be able to, we were talking earlier about doing crazy daredevil things. Anything like that, I respect people who can do crazy things, and that's peak performance for them, but I don't want to die. So
we could talk about this with me, and I've had a few scary experiences with you.
I bet. Yeah. And I wish I was brave enough, but I'm more likely to be like, yes, I'll go and do a stand-up comedy show or something that would put me out of my comfort zone that way, as opposed to a physical thing. But yeah, I think it's just making sure that the definition of peak performance or high performance, when you go into the room with those people, can be something that everyone can relate to and do something with in their own way. And that to me would be like something that's really impactful for them, and bringing in all the skills. Everyone's got amazing backgrounds and skills, and like you say, from different areas, different walks of life. I think bringing that all into a room would be really powerful. Yeah, epic. Again, I was going to finish on that, but I'm going to be curious because it's just coming to my mind. You mentioned before that you work on a one-on-one basis and a team basis. What do you find is the biggest change in your biggest application of your coaching process in example? When one-on-one super deep, we can go deep and deep and narrow. The issue when you're going into a team environment of X amount of people that you work with. Yeah.
we mentioned about some people want optimal, some people want peak, some people don't even care. They're sat there eating bourbon biscuits and with a, they don't give a monkeys.
I'm just laughing because that was me.
She's literally, that's me.
Nice biscuits,
custard
though.
creams, not
Nice
bourbon biscuits. You can't be chopping over there. You find them at the back of the sofa at your nan's house,
That's a waste.
What's one thing that you feel that what's one skill that you use in that situation to try and from a philosophy standpoint? Would you say if I walked into the room and I'd know your standard, what would that philosophy be? Like me, I've always got to be daring, be different, be decisive. That's what I've always had that, and it doesn't matter if I'm working one-on-one with someone or I'm working in a team. It's always been like, that's my ethos. Have you got like an ethos or a standard or a philosophy that runs throughout your coaching that you use? Or
I mean, that's a good question. I probably need something catchy like that now.
That's not mine. So my dad was a creative for Jaguar Land Rover. So me and Sam, Sam's dad used to work with my dad. So weirdly, I used to coach his brother, who's a football player. He's the opposite to him. He's blonde, blue-eyed. He's a sexy man. Sam is a sexy man, but in a different way. But I've worked with his family. But my dad is a creative director.
Yeah.
So my dad used to tell me that when I was a kid. So this is definitely not mine. It's coined from, but I've sort of lived by that, and I've always put my coaching practice. You could talk about strength conditioning. I could talk about principles of strength. It's nothing to do with that. It's like I said, performance for me was then a bit more holistic. Have you got something that you give to teams that is more choice, or is it something that you have, or is it more of a case of in a team environment, it's just a case of giving people the opportunity to express themselves? Is there something that you actually, is there an outcome that you want to look for generally?
That's a good question. One thing I definitely always do is make sure that people learn from each other. I think when you're especially working in a team, you know each other, you know how the business operates, you know the politics, all that kind of stuff that can come into it and derail someone from being a top performer. And so I always make sure that there's enough interaction, engagement, conversation, so that if you don't want to be a top performer and you really want to, there are insights that you can learn from each other. I think that's the most important thing. So you can see different perspectives, because it's all right, we come in and we can share what we know, the science and the research and the kind of best practice, the toolkits. So we've got that, but it has to translate. And I find it really interesting when people say something can't be done or there are challenges. I like to know what those are, so that we can think, how do we do something about it? And then if someone in the room, say for example, someone always gets really stressed, someone doesn't get stressed at all, I want to understand
the perceptions and the reason behind
why is that. There was one guy I worked with years ago when I was in banking, and I remember I ran a workshop on, this was whilst I was still in banking, I ran a session on stress management and well-being and stuff like that. And everyone in the room put their hand up to say, I'm really stressed. I said, how's everyone feeling today? Like, how are you in terms of stress levels? Everyone had their hand up apart from this one guy, and it was because, and I asked him why, and it was so insightful because his background was in law enforcement, and so his background was chasing like drug dealers around the country and like face to face with these like scary criminals. So for him, getting into a bank and being on his computer doing like financial crime wasn't as
stressful work.
So it's all perception a lot of the time as well.
That's wicked. Again, I appreciate the not just the honesty, but I'm looking forward to picking your brains, because it's wicked. It's funny how we all had very similar conversations, but it's all listen, don't speak, think before you act. It's very interesting. I think it's something that's cool. It's quite organic. Is this like everyone's off the singing off the same hymn sheet, but also from a team dynamic standpoint, I think that's something. Again, playing a rugby team is exactly that. It's like actually knowing, not only knowing your job, but knowing your man's job alongside you, but not trying to do their job. But it's such a team dynamics is a different ball game. But I'm sure that's going to be a way longer conversation for me and you. So really appreciate your time, Dan.
Yeah, thank you. Really enjoyed it, and looking forward to learning more about what's in your head as well.
Don't be scared of that one. Lovely to meet you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Catch you later.